Good evening, listeners. It's the Film Talk Podcast. You're about to hear an old episode. Listen to it.
Hello, everybody. This is Film Talk, and I'm David Greyson. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tonight's episode is primarily going to be about a genre of entertainment that truly means a lot to me, comedy, and stand-up comedy specifically. I think the biggest reason why it's been a big part of my life is because I've always loved making people laugh. It's nothing gives me more joy than hearing somebody hysterically laugh to the point where they do that wheezing thing where it's like nothing is funnier than to me and more I guess fulfilling than hearing somebody laugh like that. And I really just try to make people happy, and that's my way of doing it. Also, I mean, comedy's gotten me through so many hard times, like watching other stand-up comedians talk about their life problems and the issues that they've had to face through their life, and to see them still be able to make people laugh, and especially make me laugh while talking about such difficult subjects, it really has, I guess, put me at ease and made me not feel so alone on some of the subjects, and also maybe enlightened me into the fact that people out there have experienced worse than what, I've come to deal with. Because a lot of stand-up comedians have struggled, in their journey to become stand-up comedians. That's why you see a lot of them are like, in their 40s or so, like Louis C.K., Patton Oswalt, Jim Jeffries. All of those guys are around the age of 40, and that's because they spent 20 years, slumming it, basically, until they got famous enough to where, they did 200 crappy, shitty open mics and finally got noticed by HBO or Showtime or Epix and finally were able to do their thing. I'll start off really quick by saying a few of the comics that I truly love. I love Louis C.K., Patton Oswalt, Marc Maron, Jim Jeffries, Bill Burr, and many others like that. Very, I think, intelligent people, but they've gathered their intelligence not necessarily by school. Some of them have. Some of them are very bright on paper, but most of them have had a lot of life experiences in a very short amount of time, to where they're very wise on subjects that most people will never be. Dealing with addictions, family deaths, scarring, traumatic life events, even happy events such as having a kid, stuff that I could never relate to at my age or when I was younger, that I'm slowly starting to understand what they've gone through, and I just think they're really great. I'm sorry if I seem to be stuttering or fumbling through this a bit. It's mostly just because it's 105 degrees at 10 o'clock at night, which is ridiculous. But tonight's episode, I actually wanted to read something that I wrote. I wrote a note on Facebook about 2 years ago when I first did my first stand-up routine in front of, a decent-sized group of people. Not just stuff where you're talking to your friends and you made all them laugh. Because I guess you could call those routines, but that's only if you tell the same jokes every single time you see them. To the point where it's like an act or a bit that they ask you to do. The very first night that I did stand-up, it was absolutely insane. I'll never forget it, and that's why I want to share it with you guys. It truly was one of the best days of my life, and I just wanted to let you all in on it. So here goes. One of the best nights of my life was my first stand-up comedy routine that I performed at the Meacham Auditorium on November 4th in 2010. I had auditioned to be in a comedy show out of about 50 people, and they were to select the top 8 to perform. I couldn't even believe that I had done that, especially this was my first time ever doing anything like this. I remember arriving at the auditorium like 2 hours in advance because the days of waiting for the show to start were driving me up the wall, and I was very anxious about the whole thing. I got there, and I watched other comedians run through their bits and was asked if I would like to give it a try, but I declined. I just asked if I could stand on stage for a bit, just to get the feel of it. like trying on a new pair of shoes that you want to see if they fit correctly. I remember staring out at this empty room of chairs thinking that this is what it looks like probably to perform on a Comedy Central Presents show. This is legit. I also kept thinking about how glad I was that I was supposed to be going 6th out of the 8 comics and feeling most grateful for the extra time to make sure that my jokes were in order. You know, people started to feed in slowly, and bigger groups, like frats and, just large group of friends. And the nerves and the sweat were just beginning to flow, But on the outside, I kept my cool and I kept reserved. It was starting to get close to showtime, but our host for the night hadn't arrived yet. By the way, the host of the show is actually Taylor Williamson, who was in the finals of The Last Comic Standing a few years back. So that even made me more nervous. Anyway, where was I? Yes, he hadn't arrived yet. And now I'm really worried. All I kept thinking was the first time in my life that I actually act ballsy, and they're going to have to cancel the show. Without that, you can have it. I showed the hand of the stick backstage, did a last-minute review of my jokes on this little yellow piece of paper I had scribbled them on, and waited nervously for the host to show up. Finally, he does. In a stellar 4 minutes before the show starts, he didn't even have time to learn our names or interesting info about us so he could introduce us. The guy running the show came up to all the comics, Taylor, and he, introduced himself, and I introduced myself to him, and they go, "Okay, everybody, a little change of plans." They look to me, and they say, "David, you're going to start the show off." Instantly, my heart started acting like it was just going to beat itself out of my chest, down my shaking body, up the aisle, and right out the door. I was freaking out because this was my first show, and I literally was the benchmark for everybody else. I had to set the standard. I had to be funny or the whole tone of the show would be ruined. The host, Taylor, asked me, "Hey, what's your name and where are you from?" And I responded, pretty normally. I said, "Oh, I'm David Greyson from Edmond." Then he goes out and he walks onto the stage, grabs the mic and says, "Okay, you guys, this comedian's from Edmond, Oklahoma. Give it up for David Greyson, everybody." So basically gave me no introduction. I heard lots of clapping, and I started walking out to the stage, and he reaches to shake my hand, and we do so. This is it. It's time to shine and introduce the world to who David Greyson really is. He places the mic in my hand, and he gives me a smile and a nod of good luck, and then it happened. I turned to the crowd with a nervous smile to see 400 people in a packed auditorium before me, and a spotlight that seemed brighter than the sun on a hot summer day. Then something really weird happened. Serenity. It took me by the hand and I was at peace. It was like at that moment I realized that I could do this, that this is what I was meant to do. Just me, a spotlight, and a mic, and a quiet room. I did it. I got over the fear of me running off stage and saying I can't do this. I cleared my throat and I took a deep breath, and I remember feeling that I felt before when I saw that empty room. All this ran through my mind in a matter of seconds because, when you get that nervous, just time seems to slow down. It's like you're moving in molasses. But it was one of those times when it moves so slowly that your mind just wants time to soak it all in. And my future as a comedian and a comedic actor began there, with a clear of the throat, a deep breath, and a few simple words. "How's it going, everybody?" And that's the story of my first night ever trying to do stand-up. And I'll never forget it. It truly changed my life in so many ways because, one, it definitely gets rid of the fear that you have about speaking in public and all that. You can't have any sort of speech apprehension when you go up and you do stand-up comedy. It's a very difficult field. A lot of people think that they're real comedians because they make their friends laugh. And yes, I guess that makes you a comedic person. But to be a stand-up comic takes a lot of guts. A lot of guts that other people just couldn't even imagine how much it takes. Both my parents are doctors, but if they were to have to go up in front of people and make them laugh, good luck. There's not a shot in hell that they would be able to do that. I guarantee you. They just aren't those kind of people. You can be funny off stage. Hell, I've been funny off stage, then gone on stage and just completely fallen apart. where I forgot every single joke that I was supposed to say and ended up saying some terrible comment that either was ridiculous, retarded, racist, something that just wasn't really planned out very well, and ended up getting booed off the stage. It is the worst feeling, by the way, to get booed off a stage, but it's the worst/best feeling, because every comic needs to know what it feels like to get booed off a stage to really appreciate the difficulty that a good stand-up comedian goes through. If you ever see a comedian on TV, a lot of you are like, wow, this guy is really funny, or you're like, he's not that great in my opinion, and you change the channel, but you have no idea how much guts it took him to get to that point. He had to do hundreds of comedy shows probably, and really dank David Fincher-esque comedy clubs, and really didn't get, any good feedback, except for a few, network producers who heard his bit one day and go, hey, you got a nice stick, and, decided to sign him on. There were a lot of people like Louis Black and Larry David, very, very famous comedians and actors, who were completely despised when they first started stand-up comedy. They were way too smart. Their jokes were flying over their audience heads. They tried just way too hard. But as they, put in the time and the effort, they got the courage and the rhythm and the, I guess the audacity it takes on a daily basis to just go up in front of people and know for a fact that you are either going to kill it or you're going to do absolutely terrible. That's one of the few jobs, stand-up comedy, that does that. It's not like a surgeon goes in and goes, well, I guess I'm just going to, save some people's lives, or I'm just going to kill absolutely everyone today. You have to be on your game every single day, just like a comedian does. But a comedian, even if you're on your game, some people might not like it. Can you imagine as a surgeon saving somebody's life and then the family still getting mad at you? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? But that's just the way it is. I remember that night so vividly and seeing all the other comics. And I remember seeing one guy named Griff go up there. And at the time we were friends. We're not really anymore. But I remember seeing him go up there. And I was blown away because he had just this natural sort of charisma because he had been doing stand-up comedy for like 2 or 3 years. And just the difference in the way that he told his jokes and the confidence in which he told his jokes. And he even pulled out a stool and sat down on the stool like Mr. Rogers and kind of leaned into the audience like, listen, everybody. Listen, folks. And I had never heard a comedian say, listen, folks, before who wasn't 50 or above. And it blew my mind. I was like, what kind of, what's wrong with that guy? Like, I honestly thought, like, what the fuck? Why did that guy say folks? He's not old. It's not like he's old enough to say, like, look, kids, because he is a kid. And I remember that show he was talking about how he went to this barber and his haircut was buzzed and he had a weird, like, mullet-esque haircut. And it didn't match his personality at all. It didn't go with the character that he was doing on stage. It actually made his character on stage look really weird. It was like if you saw like a really nerdy guy with a mullet. It just didn't make a lot of sense. But, I mean, he got some huge laughs because he just delivered it with such confidence, as if he just didn't give a fuck if you laughed or you didn't. He was going up there, he was going to tell his jokes, he was going to do his time and get off the stage. And he did. And it was phenomenal. I mean, they gave you I think 6 to 8 minutes, and I think he did all 8 minutes. Now, I did all 8 minutes, but mine ended terribly. That very first stand-up show, I used all my good stuff to start out the show, and I had nothing good to close with. I didn't know that you should do that. I didn't even think it through. Every time I had seen the stand-up show on TV, I was like, man, they ended that on a great one. And I didn't even take the time to think about ending mine on a good one. What was wrong with me? What the fuck was I thinking? I think I ended with, thanks everybody, thanks for laughing. Who's up next? And then all you hear in the audience after I said that was, get off the stage, go suck a dick. And just everybody hated that because I didn't have any fucking confidence. I was so nervous. I didn't look like I had been there, you know? I didn't act like I had been there before. I just looked like a noob, you know? It's like trying to teach somebody a sport that you've been playing your whole life. You're like, how do you not get this? And but the one thing that was truly redeeming about that night was as I was walking off the stage, people were clapping, like legit clapping, and I had never heard so many people clap for me at anything. And I'm a golfer, and I've golfed in front of some big crowds, and I've never heard clapping like that before. And some people even cheered and were like screaming my name. It was the coolest thing ever. Granted, there were people booing, but I was more focused on the cheers, as you probably should do. And like all the other comics were high-fiving me and were saying that was great. And then at the very end of the show, everybody's leaving in packs, and I remember they did like an audience, vote, and your friends could vote to see who did the best. And I didn't bring any of my friends. I didn't want any of my friends to see me because I thought if I did terrible, I don't want them to remember me doing terribly. So I'll just tell them about it in a story, kind of like this podcast. So if any of them are listening, what up, friends? So anyways, after the show, Taylor Williamson, who's performed in front of thousands of people, been on national television several times, been on Letterman and Leno and all that stuff, and he was pissed, really, really pissed. And I was like, hey, man, I didn't mean to piss you off. Did I say something that offended you? Because I curse a lot in my comedy, and I thought maybe he doesn't curse a lot in his, and I thought maybe that offended him. And he goes, no, you did so fucking good. He said, how long have you been doing this? I said, well, that was my first time. He goes, no fucking way. That's bullshit. Now, he didn't say fucking, but he was like, no way. There's absolutely no way that was your first time. And when I told him, yes, it was, and a couple other people of my friends who I didn't know were in the audience came up, they go, yeah, that's his first time. We've never seen him do this before. He just was like, that sucks so bad for me. Because that means that you're only going to get better, and that was really, really good if that was your first show. That was incredible. It looked like you've been doing it for a long time. And I was so encouraged by that I remember for the next few months, I was going to these comedy clubs, and I was doing the same jokes. I thought, I want to get that same reaction, so I'm going to keep testing out these jokes, and I'm going to keep doing them until they become a bit, to where people know if you go on this night, you're going to see this guy tell these jokes, and they're funny jokes. I wanted people to repeat my jokes. I wanted to hear people say that. And, man, that was a bad decision. I remember I got horrible responses, which is what I was talking about earlier with bombing and how it's really good for a comedian to bomb and know what it's like to fail, because that gives you appreciation for the people who don't fail or do national, comedy tours and stuff like that. Constantly on all the time, never slip up at all. Because I was going to comedy clubs and telling the jokes that made 400 people laugh. And 17 drunk douchebags were throwing their beer bottles at me, just going, get off the stage, you faggot! And I remember just, it hurt so bad. But then, like Dave Chappelle, when he was on the Inside the Actor Studio, he said that when he bombed at the Apollo, he had never gotten booed before. He had only had success up till that point. But after he got booed, he was thinking to himself, look, everybody hated it. Nobody liked it. Everybody was booing. But this is the worst it gets. If this is the worst it gets, my life's not going to be that bad. And that's just the way I look at it, too. I think that's the exact way that everybody should look at it who's trying to get into comedy. If the worst your life ever gets is 25 people booed you off stage for 5 crappy minutes of jokes, you're absolutely fine. You're golden. You didn't get hit by a car. Your girlfriend didn't cheat on you and break up with you. You just weren't that funny. How many times in your life have someone told you that you just weren't that funny, or you didn't make them laugh? Just imagine that that's the worst your life ever got. They just didn't laugh. That's not that bad. And that's still kind of the way I think today, which is why I rely so much on people laughing in my life, because otherwise I'll cry. But that's besides the point. That's in a completely different podcast. Different topic for a different day. Another cup of coffee. Hang on really quick. Let me take a sip from my water. That is good. That is clear stuff. But I just really enjoyed it, and it meant a lot when he said that I did really great. It also meant a lot when those people said I sucked, because it told me that I needed to improve. I had a long ways to go. I wasn't as awesome as I thought I was in my head, and it wasn't going to be an easy road all the way there, you know? And it got me to work harder and got me to write new material, and I started to go back because I wanted to prove to these people, look, I'm funny, all right? I know I'm funny. These jokes are funny. Laugh at them, damn it. And I got to the point where I would go up on stage, sober or not, and I just kind of had it, fuck it. I think these are funny. I'm going to tell these jokes. If you boo me the whole time, I'll just plug my ears, and I'll just finish the joke. You know, screw you guys. This is what I want to do. I'm trying to pursue my dreams, damn it, and I'm not going to let some drunken idiots dictate if I'm doing well or not at pursuing my dream. I'm at least pursuing something I love. Fuck you guys for booing me. You know, what did you do today? Just go to fucking work at an office that you hate? You dipshits. So, and I kind of got that mentality. Now, granted, it's a little cynical, but also it's a good kind of, you know, fuck you, Mr. Corporate Suit and Tie. I'm going to go and do what I've wanted to do when I was a kid. And it's been a fun road. And I haven't gotten to do stand-up in the last, you know, few months because I've been so busy with school. But, I mean, I write stuff all the time. I'm nipping at the butt just to be able to go out and do it. The only reason I truly don't, seriously, is if I get booed the night that I do my stand-up and I have to go to class the next day, I'm not going to pay fucking attention in class. And I don't want to do crappy in class just because I got booed the night before, because no one's going to have any sympathy for that. What kind of teacher would just be like, David, you seem to be slacking in class. I don't understand. I mean, you're here every day. Is everything okay at home? You don't understand, okay? Everybody didn't like the jokes I said, all right? Nobody liked the jokes. Nobody liked it when I said fuck 15 times in a row. Nobody. Oh, that's your reason. Okay, I thought you might have been dying or something. Family death. Dog died. Okay, well, then you just need to snap the fuck out of it, because that's really lame and that's stupid. That's a dumb reason to be upset, David. And I'm a puss. I'm not going to lie. If I get booed, I hate it. It hurts my soul. Just a little part of me dies. But every time I get up to go on stage, there's that kind of butterfly effect. You just, you know, you get those jitters, but they're good kind of jitters. Like the jitters you get when you know you're pursuing something that you just want to fucking do, and you know people might not like it. You know they might hate it, but guess what? They also could love it. You might just kill it. And if you kill it, it's going to be so fucking worth it. So just go and do it, and maybe you'll kill it. And if not, just go, you know, buy yourself a drink and cry at home, and just don't go to class tomorrow. So, anyways, stand-up comedy is a great part of my life. I watch it all the time. Ask anybody. I can quote bits from countless comedians. And recently I've even been watching one of my favorites that I forgot to mention before, named Paul F. Tompkins, very good comedian, and Brian Regan as well. They're both great comics, and they're very clean, I think. Paul F. Tompkins isn't as clean. He curses a little bit, but his jokes are pretty modern. It's not talking about, like, slapping a woman or anything like that. It's just like, hey, aren't dogs and cats crazy? And then Brian Regan's just like, oh, I don't know there, you guys. So how about we go to the doctor's office and I'll just talk to you over there. You know, he's very, you know, kind of like a comic that your parents would like. You know, he's not cursing to impress you or to get an easy laugh. He's just telling you good, wholesome family jokes. You know, something the whole family and office can agree on. Pretty soft rock when it comes to comedy. But he's great. Anyways, that was my, I guess, 2 cents on comedy. Maybe 3 or 4 cents. I said kind of a lot tonight. But I hope I can, at some point, have a good, solid career in stand-up. You know, at least to the point where I'm someone like, you know, like Donald Glover or something off Community, where you do acting, like comedic acting, and you also do some comedy specials about every, 2 to 3 years on HBO or, Epix or Showtime and stuff like that. And, yeah, that's just kind of what comedy means to me. If you guys aren't into comedy, you should really start to watch comedy on YouTube. I really think it would actually brighten your day, surprisingly. Because you'll either watch it and you'll laugh and go, man, that guy knows exactly what I'm talking about. He knows exactly how I feel. Or you'll go, man, that guy has a lot shittier life than I do. I feel so much better knowing that somebody else has had more pain inflicted on them than me. So you can look at it from a variety of different ways. And sometimes it just makes you laugh, when you thought you couldn't. And it's, even nice to listen to as you go to sleep. Nothing better than laughing yourself to sleep. I think that's the best way to go to sleep. So that's what I always try to do.
That was my show from a couple of years ago, actually, when I first started the podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for listening. This has been Film Talk, and have a great night, everybody.